I'm Owen. Today I'll be talking about Alexander McQueen's Fall Winter 2009 show titled Horn of Plenty and how it shows McQueen's tenets of design. For some background, Alexander McQueen was a British fashion designer. He was born in London's Lewisham district in 1969. At 16, he dropped out of high school and went to go apprentice on Savile Row. Savile Row, for those who don't know, is a street in Mayfair but is known for its suiting. The British royals get their suits from Savile Row, so it's very high quality, prestigious tailoring. McQueen apprenticed there for 4 years and then decided to move to Milan. In Milan, he worked for Romeo Gigli as a pattern cutter for about 2 years. After that, he came back to London and went to study at the prestigious fashion school Central St. Martin's. Famously, Vogue fashion editor and heiress Isabella Blow bought the entirety of McQueen's master's collection titled Jack the Ripper Stalks His Victims. Isabella Blow helped him enter the fashion industry. In 1996, McQueen was appointed to Givenchy to design ready-to-wear and couture collections. So he was designing 4 collections for Givenchy on top of 4 at his namesake label. In late 2000, McQueen sold a majority stake in his label to Gucci Group so he could leave Givenchy because of the amount of work and stress it was causing. Slowly, the work at his namesake label would ramp up again, where he was back to designing 8 collections a year. I have narrowed down 4 aspects or tenets that make McQueen's work unique and impactful in the larger fashion narrative. They are politics, violence, tailoring, and poetry. All these things have existed in fashion before, but the unique combination of them together is what makes McQueen's work so impactful. Horn of Plenty, Everything But the Kitchen Sink, was McQueen's second to last show before his death. The show took place on March 9th, 2009 in Paris, right at the beginning of the 2008 recession. Fashion is a business, so the garments need to sell, and designers must adapt to the current climate. The press expected the designers to play it safe this season and send a lot of simple clothes in black, brown, and gray. And you do see that, but you also see fantastic runways with risky clothes. This reminds me of an idea that Ryan Finn or That Adult talks about frequently, that when we become more powerless, like in a recession, we gravitate to more extreme styling choices. She posits minimalism is just as extreme a style as maximalism. That being said, McQueen is part of the fantastical Maximal group during the reaction to the 2008 recession. Throughout McQueen's career, he was known for incorporating politics into his work, like one of his first and most controversial collections, Highland Rape, which uses clothes to talk about England's rape of McQueen's homeland, Scotland, and violence against women. But around the time of Horn of Plenty, he was concerned with sustainability, and specifically the waste of the fashion industry. His idea for this collection was to recycle his best moments, and the best moments of fashion history. So throughout the collection, he used jewelry, prints, and patterns from his past collections, recycling them to make something new. Many of the hats in the show are made to look like trash, like plastic bags, lampshades, and tire rims. Even the hairstyling is trash. Many of the models have aluminum cans saran wrapped to their head. These are inspired by old Irving Penn pictures and Hendrik Kirsten's paintings, specifically the painting with the plastic bag on her head, as well as referencing iconic fashion moments. For example, the first look of the collection is a reference to Dior's new look from 1947. You also see references to Balenciaga, Chanel, Yohji Yamamoto, Maison Martin Margiela, Yves Saint Laurent, Galliano, Alaya. The list goes on and on. He wanted to highlight the idea of recycling to mock the fashion system. He said that designers are constantly saying this is something completely new when it isn't, because he was exhausted with the speed of the fashion system. He was designing 8 collections a year. The set is a landfill of blackened trash, some of which comes from his past shows, on top of a broken mirror floor. Fashion is a system that thrives on newness and consumerism, so McQueen is literally showing the trash. I guess the question he's asking is how much do we or the fashion system have to throw away to make a new collection, to keep the models walking on the catwalk? He wasn't always correct or progressive. In this show specifically, there's a lack of model diversity. There are no models of color. And his work was subsumed into the fashion narrative to make fashion look more progressive than it was at the time. I think the houndstooth with the Jackson Pollock inspired splatter shows us this. Ava Cockcroft recounts in her article Abstract Expressionism, Weapon of the Cold War, how the CIA used museums and Pollock's work during the Cold War to craft this narrative that America is free enough for rebellion. In this way, McQueen's work has been used to show fashion as a free and progressive enough industry for rebellion. You can splatter paint all over a houndstooth suit, and it's still fashionable. Violence really is the biggest trait that sets McQueen apart. When he came into the fashion industry, few to no designers were dealing with darkness or violence. This is part of the reason his clothes for Highland Rape were so shocking. Because the clothes were slashed, torn, and dirty, like the women walking on the runway had just experienced sexual violence. I also think in his work, humor and sex are tied to violence through exaggeration. Take, for example, the makeup for the show, which is very iconic. All the models in the show have the same makeup, which is this very flat, pale, almost clown white foundation with a giant oval of lipstick. The makeup artist said it's this cross between clowns and Hollywood actresses, specifically Joan Crawford, who was known for her extremely overdrawn lipstick. The simplicity of the red lipstick is exaggerated to a point where it becomes abrasive, stupid, and even funny. Something that clowns do is exaggerate what they are insecure about. So if they're insecure about a bald spot, they'll wear a bald cap. Or if they're insecure about their height, they'll wear big pants to make themselves look shorter. I think that's the intersection of humor and violence. It also reminds me of fashion illustration, specifically from René Grau, who did a plethora of Dior ads through the late 40s and 50s, where everything is abstracted except the outline of the face and the red lips. And also some of Lee Bowery's looks, where he has this same exaggerated lip, or even these toy lips that are safety pinned to his face. The sexual undertones of red lipstick are exaggerated so much it swings into this abrasive, clownish, unappealing look. He also uses BDSM wear, like latex and harnesses, throughout the collection, to convey fashion's fetish for newness. This combines politics and violence to question societal norms of beauty. McQueen's design background is very much rooted in tailoring and impeccable craftsmanship. This is one of the reasons why McQueen is important. In this collection, he has a variety of prints: houndstooth, harlequin, and birds. The bird print is a reference to his show, The Birds. Coming back to the idea of recycling, in the book Working Progress, fashion journalist Suzanne Frankel recounts how McQueen would go through old patterns in pieces like pants and then turn them into jacket sleeves for this collection. Even in tailoring, there's this idea of recycling. So you end up with remarkably interesting, sharp jackets and dresses. Another aspect of craftsmanship is lining up the prints to continue down sleeves or skirts, which is extremely difficult. And then he has these testellated snakeskin patterns, which is another layer of technical difficulty, twisting the pattern and keeping them aligned at the seams. This motif is something McQueen is recycling from his Spring Summer 2003 show with these feather dresses, and also his collection before this one, Spring Summer 2009. These testillating patterns are inspired by artist M.C. Escher, who was known for very intricate mathematical patterns that transform. He'll continue these prints in his next and final collection, titled Plato's Atlantis, which is about the idea of humans devolving back to the ocean. The final tenet of McQueen's design is poetry. Fashion historian Valerie Steele refers to him as the Edgar Allan Poe of fashion in her review of his Met retrospective, Savage Beauties. Throughout his work, he also has this deep sensitivity, which is usually seen in tandem with references to nature. Take, for example, the oyster dress from Spring Summer 2003, which has all these delicate layers of fabric and is inspired by, well, oysters. There isn't a lot of sensitivity in this collection. It's quite cynical in tone, but there is a lot of nature. The houndstooth print, which McQueen would refer to as dog's tooth, is seen all over. The snake prints, as I talked about earlier, have these dangerous colors. All the nature references are about violence. You think about dogs biting and snakes slithering. Then the houndstooth transforms into birds, much like these N.C. Escher prints. Near the end of the collection, he uses feathers. One dress using pheasant feathers is a recycled look from his Fall-Winter 2006 show. Then, the final two looks are a white and black swan. This is where poetry and sensitivity come in for me. It completes this grand narrative. The world is ending because of global warming and overconsumption, and all the status systems are ending. Women are wearing trash with their couture, and the birds are circling above the death and trash like vultures. The white swan, which to me is hope, is shriveled and turned inward. You imagine her dying a beautiful, perfect death, like in Swan Lake. And then the black swan, the raven or crow, circles as the final symbol of death. But there's this idea of transformation with M.C. Escher inspired dresses. Specifically, I'm reminded of his Metamorphosis 2 painting, as the people turn to birds. And then those birds turn to fish. And you arrive at his next and final show, Plato's Atlantis, where those birds turn to fish and the world, humans, humanity, come again from the sea. Thank you for watching. That's all I have for today.